Welcome, Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link, together with a thanks button after the show, in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this, in turn, increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. Now, we are joined by Neil, Arwin, Eli, 10th Man, Refracted Curvature, Chocolate Saiyan, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome, one and all.
I just wanted one rib!
Hello, you beautiful people!
Very enthusiastic from one day.
Good morning, good morning.
I love it when Discord get enthusiastic right at the beginning of a live show. Thank you very much, One Deck. Do appreciate it. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Any fly boys give us an answer?
Black Swan.
He claimed that the horizon was a physical leading edge and that it was blocking the sun by way of his assumption that Earth turn caused a 15 degrees an hour deflection in that sun. Therefore, the motion was apparent as a result of Earth curve and Earth turn by way of assumption. So he did assume it.
That's right. He has a straight line of sight to it, but the horizon's still refracted.
We didn't get that far with him, the guy yesterday. But nevertheless, any evidence of Earth curve?
Negative.
No.
Any evidence of the axial rotation that we were discussing yesterday with the pilot? Axial rotation.
For that, though.
Go on, Jorge. My bad.
You're going to need R for that.
You will. Again, as discussed in the pre-show by John, you know, his sentiment to yesterday's 4-hour-long discussion with that pilot was that he's never going to be put on an inertial reference frame unless you've got an R value to claim. And I completely agree.
Absolutely. I mean, I've seen the Jubilee celebrations. I've seen the red arrows. And I'm sure, I haven't seen any deviation, first of all. And I'm sure they haven't accounted for any deviation either.
No,
He would have been lost if you would have threw that at him.
Adam? Adam's not here.
At them.
I know.
Thank you, Arwin.
So, any evidence of that axial rotation? Earth-based variety, obviously.
You would
Negative.
need the thing that you spoke about in the first question, which was the Earth curve. We don't have that. So if you don't have the Earth curve, you don't have an Earth that's curved, spinning. That's a problem.
It's all relative.
Yeah, it's the conservation
We
of
wouldn't
stationary
expect
momentum.
anything. We wouldn't expect
claim,
to see
they
any
claim the stars are
deviation at
moving,
all.
don't they?
Hold on, Arwin. Just go ahead, whoever it was from Discord.
Just saying they claim the stars are moving and that proves the Earth rotating, but if you hover a drone, that doesn't appear to move. So I don't know how they make all these things up myself.
It's the kind of fluctuation of Coriolis deflection. If you've got Coriolis deflection, that's to say you're on a turning roundabout and you're watching something not on the turning roundabout look like it's moving when it isn't. Well, that's not an either or, maybe it will, maybe it won't situation. If you're turning on a roundabout, literally everything that isn't with you on the roundabout looks like it's moving because you're moving. That's the apparent deflection described in Coriolis effect. So it's not like if we were on a turning Earth, maybe we'd have Coriolis effect. We would have it. Further to that, they claim we do. Hey, Brian.
Yeah, but Nathan, a roundabout doesn't have enough mass to cause the bending of space-time in order for everything to become relative, like with Earth.
Time doesn't bend.
Yeah, but even so, they
think,
say it rotates
I'm correct,
sometimes.
though.
It depends on the example.
No, you're not correct. Time doesn't bend, so having enough mass won't make time bend. So it makes no difference.
Time does
Yeah,
bend
it
on
does.
my worksheets.
On your
What's
what?
mass again?
Time does bend on your
On my
what?
worksheet.
You got to
No,
give us the...
space-time, right?
Okay.
There's not enough mass to actually get the space-time bending effect that would make everything relative.
You really want to do this?
Yeah.
What's mass?
No, concepts don't bend.
What's mass?
And I already said that. What's mass?
Mass is that within matter that is subjected to space-time bending.
No, that's a begging the question fallacy. Don't just beg the question of the thing you're trying to prove when part of your definition includes mass. Let's define them individually, not associate them with one another in a circular reasoning fashion.
I'm sorry, we were talking about the globe model, right?
It's not what the globe model claims. Why am I having to do this? Someone else do this. Come on.
No, but my claim was within the globe model.
Let's
It's
just
a
ask the question.
revision, of
No,
course.
okay, fine. Let's ask the question. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Yes, within the globe model, but not within
Yeah.
physical reality.
Scientific evidence deals with the physical and natural world. We're dealing with natural science.
Right. And in the globe model, it would be science.
In the model, it would be in the physical natural world. In the model, so like saying the trees in the video game, if they were in reality, they'd be real trees. Those trees in the video game, that sort of thing.
If they were.
Yeah.
Even in the model, there would be very little evidence for gravity, never in mass.
Hey, Arwen, you got that model, by the way?
It's over
And
there.
how'd you get to the fourth dimension anyway? Where is it?
But there is no fourth dimension. It's a mathematical description.
So then, guys,
Hi, Adam.
just quick question:
Adam.
why does Neil want to start throwing me at people?
Yes. Did you catch that?
I just tuning in.
What about any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Not yet. Probably not.
Science doesn't prove things according to 2022 Globers. Science
Say that
doesn't
again,
prove
Chocolate.
things.
Has science got what?
Nobody in their field uses the scientific method, so
I wanted to know what
You
Chocolate
can
said.
only observe them things. You can't manipulate them. It's just observations.
Yeah, they got plenty
I
of
said,
absurd phenomena.
According to Globers in 2022, science doesn't prove things.
Ah, yes, indeedy. Even though it's been
Except
claimed
the
throughout
null.
most of your education that the globe model was proven by science and all of science agreed, well, in 2022, as Chocolate's just pointed out, we're told by anti-flat earthers that science does not prove anything, contrary to the fact that that's all it does. It's designed in that way to be empirical. But yes, that's what we're told by people who have it pointed out that they don't have any science for their globe belief.
I wonder if doesn't prove anything is just like a misinterpreted description of the null. Right?
Yeah, but sometimes they don't take it to the next level, right? So they say, some of them will say it just doesn't prove anything, and they'll stop there. And then the other ones will say it doesn't prove anything, it actually disproves things. Well, if you disprove something, aren't you proving something else?
Yeah, automatically if you disprove something. Oh, right, so you proved it isn't that then.
Yeah, but I think Arwen just pointed out what the problem lies. You know, when they claim science, on the claims of science, they offer a dichotomy, not necessarily a valid null.
Yeah, and they take the hypothesis in the alternative to be an explanation before actually validating it. So if A, then B, as a supposition, becomes if A, then B, as a description of what's actually occurred. A doesn't even have to exist in the case of gravity, still used as a cause and effect association.
It seems like science claimed by the anti-flat earthers is always in flux when they're debating a flat earther, but it's empirical and to be trusted when they just want to just say something about their globe model.
Yeah, if they want to invoke the magic trick that is the suggestion of science with use of the words from science, like experiment, like hypothesis, like theory, so that they can trigger in the mind of the person they're telling this to the notion of empiricism. Well, science? Oh, right, it must be true then. Well, just saying science isn't a validated hypothesis. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
It's over there. It's so beautiful.
That is
We
his.
just have an angle to it.
But they call that angle an elevation angle. So surely we've got its height, right?
No, not actually.
No. Just the angle above the ground, above the baseline, when drawing out two straight lines. Any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle from a curved baseline?
You just answered that by saying angle.
Two straight lines.
Does not compute. Is that better than syntax error?
Definitely. Yes. Much better.
Only in a fourth dimension.
There is no fourth... What is it with you in this fourth dimension today, One Deck? There is no fourth dimension.
Yeah, there is. But
Oh,
we
yeah.
can't prove that within the third dimension.
Except that one day that Rumpus was going to tell us all about it and how to get there and stuff. That didn't work out too well for him, but it was a fun day.
Show me time. The fourth dimension's time. Show it me.
No,
Forget-
it's not.
Forget the fourth dimension. There was a band in the 60s, 70s called the fifth dimension. And it's
Yep.
just, it went up and away. It can't be found anymore.
Aquarius.
Yeah, that's all Einstein's fault, because he had to conjure this ridiculous fake mathematical medium in which time was a dimension, right? It cut us off from the actual depths beyond the third dimension, which I do believe exist, but yeah, you can't prove that in the third dimension. You could never prove that, so it's never going to be something that's proven through physics.
Right. What you call a disaster, or whatever you phrased it as, from Einstein is actually his genius, if it is indeed him that did this. Because as you phrased it, I'm just going to change what you said in terms of intonation. So he took it away from the physical world that we could experience and test, and put it into a place that we could never experience or test or invalidate. So obviously valid, and how are you going to invalidate it? Obviously you're not bending space-time. Maybe I can strap something on that you said earlier. You haven't got enough mass. Right? Whatever that is.
It's only on a small scale, and that's only for things to become relative in order to have everything move in lockstep, right?
No.
No?
No.
You
Lockstep,
didn't understand what I said, did
no.
you?
No, I
You
did.
just don't understand.
So what you're saying,
it was an
Nathan,
adult.
is the fourth dimension can never be tested, but it can be believed.
You can't test a mathematical description of something.
Right.
Yeah,
So it's
I
just
don't know
a
if I
belief.
would. I don't know
That's
if I
not
would
true.
allow
You
that.
can test a mathematical description of something. It's just that just because you can test it doesn't mean that it becomes real.
But that's what words have meaning. Something means something we can experience. A thing. Not just a concept that has no experience beyond the pen and paper mathematics. That's just a concept.
You know, the thing.
The gravity thing that we don't experience and there's no phenomena for. That thing.
That thing, yeah, the thing.
Sound like Goodfellas. Yeah, I got that thing. I got that thing.
But look, it's the bending of space-time. So if space-time is another dimension that only exists within the math as far as we can tell, because that's the only place it's even approached, well, we should just know, okay, so what does the bending of space-time do that you call gravity? What is it that it actually does in the physical world?
Hold on.
And I'd like to get like
no,
a
don't sidestep
definite
that. No,
answer
check it
from
out.
the
Arwen
officials
knows what he's
about
doing.
this.
No, we're not going to sidestep the thing and its physical reality in its existence and move on to what it might do. No, I know you're good at this, Owen, but you're not that good. we've got to actually establish what it is before we establish what it does. And we're not doing
But
that,
that
are we?
is what it is. What it is what it does. That's even like kind of this whole purpose of
that
science.
checks out.
What does it? That means, oh, it is something, it's a phenomenon, right? So what does it do is what it is.
I see.
I
So
object.
unicorns.
What's it again?
Unicorns.
That's what we're asking.
Right. What do unicorns
What does it do?
What did they do?
Well, they
It's
show
not a-
you a sheet and a bowling ball and then describe it some more, but they never actually tell you what it is that it does.
Right, that's a reification fallacy. So when they stretch out a piece of fabric and roll balls around it so that they can all move into the middle, when they're actually claiming perpetual orbital motion in a slight decay, they're not demonstrating what they claim, and they're not showing a fourth dimension, nor is a fourth dimensional mathematical description of Einsteinian fourth dimensional pseudo-Ramonian fourth space. That is not a fabric, because a fabric is a three-dimensional construct that you can experience, as opposed to a fourth dimensional description in maths that you can't. So it's just a reification.
I have a slight correction.
Go on, John. Then Chocolate.
I was just going to say that the slight correction is that it only exists in the misapplication of mathematics. It doesn't exist in math.
In the respect that maths would be describing something that you've measured physically.
Right. Well, if you apply the mathematics incorrectly, you can get all sorts of wrong answers. And that's what I'm saying.
Comparable to me calculating the digestive time period of a unicorn.
Yep.
Or
And the way that energy is defined. Go ahead.
No, you go.
No, I was going to say,
is it you or Chocolate next? I think it
turning
was
his
Eli
kitchen
anyway.
into a sphere.
I missed that. I rumpus.
No,
Sorry.
I'm just saying,
Just everyone stop. Everyone stop.
Sorry.
We're getting a bit of audio chaos. Just 10th again, then Eli. Go ahead.
John's statement on math, it was like him misusing it and turning his kitchen into a sphere.
Right. Indeed. Go ahead, Eli.
Good point. I'm just saying, in the way that energy is defined, well, isn't that exactly what Arwen is saying? We know what it is by what it does. Well, we what is energy? I don't know how to define it, but it's what we use.
Energy is a concept that is a summarization of different things put into a model, right? And it's kind of useful up to a certain level. So it's not, it does have actual relatable things that it is derived from. Well, with the bending of space-time, we still have to figure out as to what is the phenomenon, what's the thing that it actually does.
Sorry to sidetrack.
We don't have any leads.
Did any of you guys see PhD John D's video on energy?
Ooh, I haven't.
Yeah, I think I did.
No.
It was really, really interesting because he challenges basically the fundamental principles of energy in the video. It's really and really eye-opening how he describes it. Yeah, check it out. I have to dig out the title of it.
How he describes
it is basically
what,
a convention.
Oh.
It's a convention.
I've obviously made a glaring error already. I'll just keep my mouth shut while Adam corrects me. Go ahead, Adam.
No. There's not a glaring answer. Say as he describes what. That's the whole premise. These chats. He's put it beautifully together. I remember me and him chatting over these things and just trying to get to it, and then realizing how much of a convention it is, and how we're even mixing conventions and calling it the same thing. I say energy is just a real eye opener as to what you to demonstrate how a lot of it is just convention, and you're perceiving it's useful convention, but actually when you start to analyze it and break down different types of energy, the interchangeability of it, what the hell are we actually describing?
Right. It's kind of another word for stuff happening. Energy is just stuff happening, really.
No, that's normally got a cause. That's normally got a cause which he
Come
does
on,
get into.
it kind of is.
No, I'm not saying it isn't.
It's
I'm
kind
just
of
saying
many
he does
things,
get
isn't
into
it?
that towards the end of the video. He can ascribe the differential and what causes it, and he does, and he gives examples. I don't want to ruin it because I want people to go and watch it with a bit of without any spoilers from me, basically. So go and check it out. Do you know what the title is, Adam?
Is it Musings of a Plane Dweller?
That sounds so vague and nondescript with regards to the subject it's covering. Quite possibly.
Yeah, I think it is. I'll find it and I'll post the link in a minute.
All I know,
I like
all I know is energy prices are going up here in the States.
Arwen made a point. He said, "Well, with energy, we in our interaction, we can. That's simple enough. There's an interaction there, but with the bending of space time, there isn't." Because I was actually trying to say that to prop up his point, but then he himself showed me the difference there. So it's like good difference.
Right, that
Problem with the
interaction.
bending of-
I know you're
sorry.
juxtaposing it with the non-interaction that there is with gravity, but that interplay, let's call it, is a very specific focus of John Dee's video. Again, I don't want to give too much away. Just go and watch it.
It's in the chat now, guys. If you anyone who's listening,
Okay,
I've just
let me do a
posted it
proper
in.
plug for it. Okay, so Adam, the Adam Meakin, the mod with the spanner going by in the chat right now, has just put a link to John Dee's video. So we will have a minute's silence while you disappear, and then obviously come back immediately to watch the rest of this live stream after you've got it in your history on YouTube, and then you can watch it later.
It looks a 2-minute job, doesn't it? But it isn't. It's John's put the slides up for 5 seconds each, and it's for you to just read. So it's probably a good half hour's worth of reading there to take it in. So it's worth digesting later.
I might just say something during the minute silence.
Was it not a talkie? Obviously, I must have read it, otherwise I wouldn't know what the subject matter was, but that means I've sat and read through it. That's not like me at all. So if it's something that's to be read, it must have been juicy for me to have sat and read it. Let's put it that way.
No, I think Dr. John Dee, he has one that's based around light, and that's a reading only, but he might have another one that actually is on the other one on the energy. That might be a separate one. That is... I could be wrong, but that could be a separate one.
It is the one I've posted. It's Musings of a Plane Dweller, Part 1 and 2. There are other ones that John's narrated.
That's correct.
This is what does it. The last lot, my wife had to narrate for him because Karen B stopped doing it. I don't think his views aligned with that side of the pond anymore, so they stopped narrating his stuff. So my wife did the last few for him. But these are so good.
It seems like he's more thought-provoking than assertive, which is what I love.
Yeah.
Am I wrong in saying that?
Dr. John Dee's an absolute legend.
Somebody narrating, they are really good. It's because...
So he's looking for a narrator. Obviously, your wife has probably got things that she does generally. She's not a YouTuber.
I got... the last lot was... There was a lot of words in there, which if you're not familiar with, I got many a punch in the arm as she got halfway through a sentence and said, what the bloody hell does that mean? But yeah, have a listen to it. This one, I think, is certainly worthy of it because very limited the audience it'll reach if you're asking somebody to sit down and read on YouTube. So it's worth
One thing
it.
that immediately springs to mind when Karen B was narrating his videos was when there was a number on screen, Karen would read the number. Now we're talking about sometimes 9+ digit numbers, and she'd say them. What's the word when you say a number? Like instead of 100, you'd say 100, or 100. Just saying the whole thing. That's what she'd do.
1,099,473.
Exactly. That's what she'd do. She'd read the whole number, but sometimes when it's sextillion or whatever it is, just an astronomically large number, to get that out is actually several sentences. But she'd do it flawlessly. So hats off to Karen B for when she did do the narration, because that especially, I remember seeing her or hearing her reading it off and going, I wouldn't even know what that number was, let alone how to read it off fully correctly.
Well, I'd have to retract that. Now you can throw it out there if you want. It's your show, but I'd retract that considering what she had to say about Dr. John Dee and the things she was narrating when she was on Globebusters. She put it down and made a joke out of it.
Doesn't negate the quality of a narrating. Karen,
I was going to say, yeah, if there's some
a lot
personal
of
issue between them, I don't care about that. The video stands on its own merits.
They've got to have their opinions, Brian. They've got to have their opinions. They're more than welcome to them. I'm welcome to mine.
Can I, unless you do want to do this, I mean, my handbag is quite close.
Just on the subject of energy, right? The word energy is just a way of describing.
My handbag is close.
Energy is just the word energy is just a way of a word used for description. It's just a way of describing. All you're really describing is potential. So when you heat a gas, you're basically they say you're giving it kinetic energy, but you're giving it potential to raise in pressure and lower in density, or a potential to rise up. The same way as if you cool a gas. So if you import or extract energy as a description, or energy, if you use the term import or extraction of energy, you're just talking about potential. It doesn't really need to be a prediction because you kind of know what's going to happen because it's entropy. It's under the description of entropy. Because the word energy and the word entropy are both as fallacious as each other because they're both just descriptions. Let's be honest.
If I eat a peanut to give me enough energy to make my muscle move, to lift a stone up to give it potential energy, what's moved between those three things? What is it? How, what, where? How has a peanut suddenly transferred its energy through biology and mechanics into the potential energy in a stone? What's moved?
Wouldn't that be your body just breaking down whatever's in the peanut and then using it to therefore move the stone?
Mm-hmm. What did it break down? And how does it then transfer it into the stone so that we can use the same units?
Well, isn't that why we have different forms of that convention? We have mechanical and electrical, all sorts of different conventions just for the same thing that we describe as energy.
Yep, same goes with the mathematical calculation of various different types, calories and joules and all the other different scales that you can apply as well. I think QE sums it up in some of his presentations when he's like,
before.
There's a list, isn't there? Charge, momentum, spin. There's a whole list of them, but those are all individually qualifiable.
The only time you eat peanuts is when you want to do work in a jiffy, right?
Yeah, we don't have Jiff here.
Well, they call it a transducer when it changes one form of energy to another.
Damn, Skipper.
That's miraculous in of itself.
That's even better, chocolate.
Yeah, we have Sun Pat here.
Well, the whole thing about transferring energy into a stone, you're not transferring energy into a stone. If the stone is on a hill and you roll it, the momentum will cause it, due to its weight, will cause it to roll down the hill. But you're not transferring energy into it. You're causing it to do something.
I took it up the hill.
It's an inanimate object. Sorry?
I took it up the hill. It was at the bottom of the hill first. It had no energy at the bottom of the hill. But I ate a peanut and used my muscles to take it to the top of the hill. So all the energy that was in the peanut is now in the stone.
That's a hell of a peanut.
But
is it
what about when it starts at the top? What if it's already a part of the top of the hill, like avalanches and mountains? But it's there, and then it breaks off, and then it rolls down.
Then it wouldn't be relevant to my analogy because it'd be already up there.
No.
The only way you could describe a stone as having energy would be if it was heated. So a heated
Potential
stone
energy.
has heat. Yeah, so it can heat something else. So it could, it can transfer the heat. It's a conductive heat, isn't it? At that point.
You
But
actually,
Adam's
Eli
driving.
and Adam were onto something, because the hijacking of potential energy is what they actually call gravity. So if you look at something like a gravity clock, what is a gravity clock? Well, it's a weight that you pull, and then it goes down, go boom boom, 9.8. No, it just falls down on a cog, with resistance. Well, they call that a gravity clock. What are you actually talking about? Well, you're just talking about potential energy, aren't you? You give it potential energy when you use your energy to raise the weight up, and then it slowly comes back down again. But when Eli described it, and Adam was right to say it's not in line with my analogy, but that's what they've essentially hijacked, haven't they? You can get to eventually an example where you've got a Wile E. Coyote cliff hanging off the edge, and then it falls down. Well, it's already up there, no one's taken it up, but it's gone down, and what's the rate? 9.8 meters per second squared. What do you know? Well, why do things go down? So you can see the full circle that comes to the hijacking of potential energy and calling it gravity, when it's merely the distribution of whatever energy it had, because it was up there, through the medium of air, till it reaches equilibrium. Potentially, it could reach a surface that's got a cavity below that, in real Wile E. Coyote style, and keeps falling through and going down to the next level. But at some point, it reaches, I can only describe this because of the discussions that Anthony and Narwin had, fall arrest. So it's in fall arrest until it releases its potential energy. But that calculable motion at 9.8 meters per second isn't some downward bias, given that I can cut the string on a helium balloon and watch it go up. It's just the differential based on the medium.
But that's not, you can't even call that potential energy, because it's purely down to density differentials. So it's not
exactly.
potential energy.
Exactly.
Because
But they do.
If you, well, they can call what they want, but
that's the point, isn't it? So all these things have all got that same E word. That was the point
they
I
do.
was trying
But
to make.
But momentum, the word like momentum, what momentum describes, I don't see how momentum can be describing energy, because you might take energy to create momentum, but it also takes energy to control it. So momentum, I just don't see momentum as describable as an energy. You know what I mean? How is momentum energy? Momentum is
right, because if you have something that picks up momentum, then you're going to require more energy to stop it. But what's putting what's increasing the momentum? What is that?
If at the top of the hill I've got a brush motor and I roll it, it just, because of momentum, it rolls down the hill and it charges a battery by the time it's got to the bottom.
I think I was taught at college that energy is is it not work done? Is that what it is? Work done.
And that's the origin story of Tesla.
But I've taken that same potential energy, and it's now been converted into electrical energy.
I got a question about it.
Yep.
Can energy exist separate of matter, and can matter exist separate of energy?
That's a good question, because I don't know what the sun is. I'm not going to be able to answer.
But you're talking there about E equals MC squared in a lot of ways. Are they separate from each other? And how could they be, kind of thing?
No, not necessarily. I don't think energy is equal to mass times the speed of light squared. No, that's filled full of assumptions.
I don't know. Well, I mean, never mind the speed of light. It's like, it doesn't matter about the word mass or the speed of light. It's the concept of matter and energy being intertwined. You know, that they, because we live, like, the first law of thermodynamics states that you can't create or destroy matter or energy. That kind of leads us to the assumption that they are one and the same. That would be my point on it.
I don't know if they're this. See, that's the thing. I wouldn't assert that. I'm just saying, can one exist without the other?
So what's the sun?
It's like
What's the sun? So we can answer that question.
Wait, why? How is that? What does the sun have to do with it?
The biggest entropy generator we know.
Yeah,
Well, see,
but, I mean, we can't say it's just energy though. Like,
What is it?
That's the
I love it. Straight into the trap. John didn't want to step in. So what is it then, Eli?
I don't know.
well, you just claimed it was the greatest entropy generator.
Yes, it is. I can observe that to be the case.
You can observe that the sun is the cause.
Oh, you bastard!
Entropy.
God, I hate this. Yes, that's correct.
Is
I can't
entropy a real thing or
technically
descriptive?
prove that the light that appears to give off heat and radiate it towards our position is actually the thing that's radiating the heat. I mean, it could be a misapprehension about my perception of what that thing in the sky is manifesting as for me to perceive. So, no, I don't know that either, and I have actually technically made some assumptions in that statement also, and you've caught me on them immediately, so thank you for that.
You can make the assumption you can't have thermal heat without physicality, John.
Yeah, that's
Even
what I'm
if that's
saying.
down
Like,
to a photon of light, it's still physical. So you can't do heat transfer without physicality.
Well, hold on, because the description of physical is it's separate from the mind, right?
It's heat.
Right. But you said physical because that's a word that we really need to talk about. Is physical separate from the mind, or does physical exist in the mind?
I'd say the two are
That's a tough
intertwined. I'd say that without matter and energy and their interaction within the individual or their brain, if that's the case, you can't have consciousness and supernatural thought without the interaction of matter and energy. Again, unless you're going to now completely destroy that, because I feel like I've just stepped in something.
Well, see, the idea of physical,
Kind of like if there's no knower, then there can't be any matter or energy, something like that.
well, you know what? My friend Gregory brought this up. He was asking. He was like, "Well, it can't not be physical if it's changing reality. That makes no sense." So, like with the delayed choice, it's like, well, your perception of something is literally changing something physical. How does
but we've used the word physical several times. What does that word mean?
I didn't say energy was fit. I said you can't transfer thermal. You can only transfer thermal energy between physical things. Doesn't mean the transfer of the thing is physical.
Right.
But we need to define what physical is before we start talking about what physical does. What is physical? What do you mean when you say physical?
Right, let's look at
Something
that.
has to be material, right?
Solidity to it. Something that has.
It's a solid
Physical.
thing, isn't it?
Physical
Actual.
is-
I mean, are you?
Hello, physical is physical.
Yeah, I was going to
can
say you
touch
can
it.
have to state some objection to the obvious there. I think.
I like where he's going. I've just read the definition. I think John's going somewhere with this. I'm not going to spoil it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But rather than fish around, just.
Well, I'll just read it out.
Go ahead and define it.
Or before John does, I'll read out the
Hang
definition.
on, 1 second.
You know.
Physical is anything that can be touched and measured, proven in a 3D space. Length, breadth, depth,
It's a bit more specific,
etc.
actually.
Density. Physical is that. The only thing we can't measure the physicality of is light. But that doesn't mean light doesn't have a physicality. It means we don't understand it and can't measure it. But we can't state that it doesn't have.
Physical is exterior to the mind.
Yes, that's what it's defined as in the dictionary. So it says relating to the body as opposed to the mind as one definition. It also says relating to things perceived through the senses as opposed to the mind, tangible or concrete. And then as a noun, it's got a slightly different definition in terms of your body and medical, but that's not what we're talking about. So relating to the body as opposed to the mind, or relating to things perceived through the senses as opposed to the mind, i.e. tangible or concrete.
Right.
But is
So my
light not
question is-
external to the mind?
Can I
Do you know
just,
that falls apart?
Hold on.
Hold on a minute.
I want to hear John. Go ahead, John.
The reason I bring that up is because we're talking about things as if they're physical, right? We use that word 100 times, but with light, information, knowledge, it can change how that light behaves. So can we define it as physical then?
Right, I get you. So this was a physics discussion. So if you're going to take it into quantum, it kind of changes the nature of it, isn't it? Because you, at that stage, you.
Quantum mechanics
what?
is
No. I don't
Come
like
on,
that.
light is not physical.
Hold on, Neil. Hold on. I don't like the way that sounded at all. If we're talking about quantum, then it changes the nature of it. I think that was your sentence.
In terms of, if you're going to go into what John's saying, in terms of mind having an effect on these things, does the light particle thing, is it there, is it not there, is it a probability? If mind's affecting this, then if you're going to discuss that nuance, then that's very different to what we were discussing, and takes on a whole new topic. I understand what he's saying, because it's then discussing the nature of physicality in itself, but that's not what we were discussing. Right. The nature of energy. Yeah.
But if you don't have a good grasp on that, how can you discuss the physical if you don't understand physicality?
Well, why are you asking? Obviously, we're being Socratic and defining physical, but why are you asking that in this context?
You just said 10 seconds ago. Do you want to just repeat what you said before you were asked that?
What, that we're discussing physical things, we should understand what physical means?
Exactly.
No,
physical,
but like in the conversation that we were just having, like what?
Physical,
right. Okay. Well, just remove
not going slow enough, John.
Just remove physical from everything. Everything that was said. Remove the word physical from it, and see what you have left.
Can I define physical for you from that viewpoint?
Yeah, as you perceive it. Yeah.
From the way you're addressing it in terms of that, if we're saying from the mind, then I would have to say it's anything. Physical is anything that's not going slow enough to exhibit a pattern distribution.
What?
Physical is anything that's not doing something.
Not going slow.
You can't define it that way, no.
So if you get macromolecules and you want them to exhibit wave function, you've got to get them going slow enough within, yeah? If they're not going slow enough, then they won't exhibit a wave function. They will just be physical. So from a quantum bit, that if you want a definition to move forward on, I would say that. But it's anything where experience is, I'd be happy with, not needing to go into that bit.
Because the photon, as what brought this up to begin with, is displaying a wave function pattern. That's why we're even discussing wave function, right?
Eli, can you mute? We're at the fundamental level of our existence in this discussion. It's about as deep a philosophical a discussion as I'm prepared to tolerate on a flat earth debate when we're talking about the physical nature of reality, because it's, in essence, questioning the very basis of what we discuss. I love it.
Well, can I get to the point of this? Because I think to say that it's either physical or mental, it seems to be a false dichotomy.
Yeah, I'd agree. The two are intrinsically linked. I'd agree.
Can we just call it tangible and intangible? Not just.
I'm lost as to why we need, for this point with regards to energy, why we're needing to go this philosophically deep, John. Because the point of the distinction, mate.
But the point is I don't think light is solely physical. I think it can affect things in this physical world, but I don't think the effect of that is necessary. I don't think the cause of that is necessarily physical.
I just got a quick super chat. Sorry to interrupt. Sorry, Chocolate. Shout out to Godzilla37. It says, is quantum very small, like Virus's brain, or very large, like Phil's artificially inflated ego? I don't know, Godzilla. You tell me.
Shout out to Godzilla
What
with
the
the best
fuck?
super chats.
Thank you for both of the
well-
super chats, Godzilla.
Can I ask this?
I
again?
think John is
Like,
asking the wrong
how does
question.
something? Well, let me ask one more time. So you described the physical. How does something that's not physical affect the physical?
That's a good question. I don't have to know that. I can just point to it and say that there is something that information and knowledge are not physical. That's mental.
Well,
They
we
are
often,
the
we often
wrong
discuss,
So I can't. Why? I
we
mean,
often discuss what
All I
the
can do
sun
is demonstrate it. I can't tell you why. I'm sorry.
You're
I
asking
don't
the
have
wrong
to-
They
question, John.
changed the spirit, not the physical matter. That's how.
You're asking the wrong question. The question should be, what came first, the light or the matter? The answer will be the light.
Well, I can incorporate that into John's question because he's got an intrinsic link. So if we're going to say knowledge of the which path is influential on wave function collapse, that's what we're really talking about, isn't it? And John's saying, well, that isn't a physical thing. It's a mental thing. It's above physical. It's supernatural. Well, okay, so we've got things that are non-physical, but I would then move on to say, without the physical attachment, without the body, there is no mind. So how can you have your conscious awareness of something going through something else unless you have a physical existence to begin with?
The mind can exist outside of the physical
Can
body.
it?
But
I don't
Yeah.
think so.
Dreams.
Like in Matrix,
Dreams.
the mind
dream.
cannot exist without the body. That's what they explain in the Matrix, at least.
Can
no,
the matter
one can
exist
die
without the
and
light?
the other continue existing, but it can exist separately,
There's you, whatever.
not in the same location.
Let me throw this at you. Can light affect matter? Yes. Can matter affect light? No.
Yes, it can.
That's the.
Yes, it can.
How can matter
Very
affect
specifically, like I've just described. Your
Transfer
physical
light.
being is matter, and with conscious thought that doesn't even have to physically interact with it beyond knowing something, you can affect what the light does. You can cause wave function collapse.
You can also
but
absorb it.
Yeah, but you're missing the point. Light can decay matter. Matter can't decay light.
Yes, it can. It can totally
How can
take it away. It can absorb all of its energy into it and move electrons around. Yeah.
Right.
But it's
And
not
gone.
decaying
It's
it.
gone.
is
That
it?
light's been
Absorbed
gone.
and transformed.
But it's not decaying it.
Any wave
Hold
path
on,
it had
hold
is gone.
on.
Any
Brian's changing
information
his
it had is
position
gone.
to just sit in line with the first law. No, that's right. It's not decaying it. Okay, Brian. Great point.
Absorbed and transformed. It's no longer there. It's not light
Completely
anymore.
different. It's gone.
No. See, you're missing the point. What I go back to the question I said. I threw out there a few minutes ago. What came first, light or matter? Which could have come first? One of them had to come first.
The fastest
know.
cake in the world, that is, Adam.
I'd say matter comes first, even
Well-
biblically, but that's not really, like, you can't really answer. That's a chicken or the egg question. Like the
Well, when we do, we all agree that we have a creator. You know, it's we have a creator.
yeah.
According to scripture, God is light.
Not yeah, but see,
He's
there you
asking,
go.
he's
Exactly.
doing a straw poll.
That-
Hello. He's doing a straw poll, so we might as well do one. You feel free to pipe up in Discord first. Anybody, I think the majority would agree, so I'll say, does anybody disagree in Discord that there's a creator? I know how to phrase the question and still use the silence to my advantage, Brian. They all agree. Go ahead, straw poll the panel.
Ontological.
Yeah, okay.
primitive.
Does anyone on the panel not agree that there is a creator?
Is that a question as has there been a creator, or is he still
Oh,
there?
God. Arwin has
No.
to ruin it. Yes, I think
No,
we're
don't
all in
mix it up,
agreement.
Arwin.
Feel free to
Please.
carry on,
I
Brian.
am mixing it up.
Go on,
Yeah,
Brian, carry on.
it's not necessary. My point is that we live in a 3D reality. That's the reality we live in. This is the construct that we're in, right? And it's what we we describe it as a physical reality. But life and death, the afterlife, and light in general, let's say light, let's call it light and death. Do you know what I mean? It's like, what came first, the light or the matter?
Light does not obey 3D geometry, is proven
had to
by
be
the
the light.
sun.
The light, yeah, but see, that's it. But the light had to come first. The light had to create the matter.
What was it emitted on?
How are you going to make that argument within physics? I mean, biblically, okay, that's debatable, right? But in physics, how are you going to test that? That's like asking
How do you bring your what happens to your
pressure
physical
without a
body when you
container.
die? What happens to your physical body when you die? Do you bring it with you wherever you're going?
No.
Well, there you go.
Hold on. How does
You're
that?
not bringing any physical with you.
No, that doesn't
So you must
explain
be
the beginning
me
of
now,
this.
Brian.
So-
This is getting. I'm lost.
You have no empirical
not lost. I
data to
followed what he
back that
said.
because
So-
you don't know anybody that went there.
Brian's
Hold on a
bringing us back to the.
second. There was
Brian's
Prove
bringing
I'm
us
not
back
bringing
to.
my body with me.
Well,
What's
Brian's
that
bringing us
got
back
to
to
do
the.
with the
Brian's
order that
bringing it-
God created things in,
God.
which isn't stated
Can you hear me?
specifically in any direction if you're going to cite the Bible, where and certainly it doesn't say
I didn't say anything about the Bible.
if you're going
I'm talking about.
to use irrespective, this point still stands is you're now going to interpret how the creator did things. I have no idea which way round, even if there is physicality of the light that we perceive from ultimately, yeah, we don't know those things. So I it's not an argument I could have an opinion on if I'm being honest.
Right, can I
Which
just
came
summarise
first. It
what
is
Brian's
chicken and egg, as
asking?
Darwin said.
What Brian's asking is he's got a juxtaposition between an infinite regress fallacy where you don't know which came first, which will only lead you to one place, which is the ontological primitives, which leads you to a creator. Now, unless Brian's going to disagree with his own point that he's got us all to agree with, it means that we can't turn the clock back and see what that was, but we all understand, based on simple logic, that is going to be the case. There's going to be something. I'm not going to be so bold as to say someone that created it at the start, because beyond that, all you've got is the laws of nature that preclude that in every way, shape, and form.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when a woman becomes impregnated, or any female of anything becomes impregnated, what is that thing that creates a physical life form? It's not all physical. That's matter that's being created, and obviously it's complex matter because it has a complex purpose. But what is that thing that's creating this personality, this being? The light must come first to create the matter, the physical. The physical has a limit, a time limit. Regardless of what it is, it has a time limit. The hardest of iron has a time limit.
Right, so now you're describing entropy. Okay, now
I'm getting
light doesn't have
confused
a time
now,
limit.
Brian.
Yeah, now you're
between
describing entropy.
Light and spirit.
Yeah, that's not the
That's
same
my
thing.
point. But that's
Light
my
and
point.
spirit is
The
not
point.
the same thing.
Well, what is light? Here's the thing about it.
I don't know what it is exactly, but I know that
exactly.
light is light and spirit is the spirit. It's not the same.
But what is light?
It's.
Do you know what I mean? Spirit must be light and must be the bringer and giver of light.
I don't see how that relates to that.
Created through light.
Light is
Matter has to be
substance.
created through light.
Light is substance without, without tangibility. How do you say that? Without mass, in this case. Yeah. That's...
Quick shout out to Goldie McKinnon, who says, I became a Patreon. How do I access the after show? As soon as the after show is finished recording, it gets published on this channel. So at the top of my main page, which I believe one of the mods has been spamming out there. Yes, indeed. Droid, thank you very much for spamming out my channel page. That's where you can find the Uncut and After show once it's finished recording. Thanks for the super chat. Sorry to interrupt.
No worries. No, I was just asking, my last question was...
Share something about this.
My last question, just the last question I asked. When there is no light, what is that? What's the opposite from light? When you take the light away, what have you got?
Dark.
Yes.
There's no
so there's
opposite
either
of
there's light, there's matter, and there's dark.
What do I win?
There's no opposite of light. There's only the absence of it.
Yeah. So is the creator creating from the absence of light, or is the creator actually light and creating from?
We don't know, but we've got a biblical account.
I'm not going to materialize the creator like that. I think he's pure spirit, which is not
that's
light.
the point I'm using. I'm not using material. I'm using light.
What? Excuse me, light is material. Just because it doesn't have mass, right, doesn't mean it's not a substance that is tangible and transformable, just like matter is.
The point. But light doesn't have a time limit. Matter does have. All matter has a time limit.
Time limit? What the hell?
Entropy shows that all matter has a time limit. All matter will decay. All matter will, go away. Light doesn't go away.
Yeah, it does.
It moves around, but it doesn't go away.
Yeah, it does. It gets absorbed, transformed, then it isn't light anymore. Yeah, it does.
Burn up some light from me then. I can burn matter. Can you burn up light?
You absorb light. You don't burn it.
Yeah, that's the big point. That's the point.
That's the point. No, that's not the point.
You can break down and destroy. You can break down and destroy matter, and you can physically do this, but you can't do that with light.
Yes,
you can
destroy it.
You absorb
you can destroy
it.
You can't destroy it.
Transform it, and then it's not light anymore.
Transform it. You can't destroy it.
In the week, on QE, we went through spectrochocoloscopy, emission and absorption spectra.
Yeah.
So in there, when we got that space cloud absorbing, and then when it emits its own light afterwards, is it the same light that it absorbed that it re-emits, or when it's absorbed into the cloud, does it lose all of its information, and when it's re-emitted, it goes off in a completely new path, doesn't it? That light no longer exists. It's not still running around as the same bit of light in the atom now. It then re-emits a new bit of light. So it is created and destroyed. It no longer exists for a bit. And then another bit of light that is totally
I wouldn't go with that.
A different...
No, I wouldn't go with that.
No, it's not like absorbed and re-admitted. That doesn't. What happens is it's changed. It's altered by the material. Some of it is absorbed, not all of it, and then its pathway might be redirected, but it's not absorbed and re-admitted. That doesn't happen.
It's energy, isn't it?
Unless it's a black body. No, that's one of the principles of a black body. Unless it's a black body, it will, because that's the principle of our black body, that it will absorb all of it.
But the thing about it is
a black body.
Yeah, exactly.
Just focus on the cloud that's just absorbed it.
What if the sun is absorbing?
Hold on, Eli. Just go ahead, Adam.
Just the one atom in that cloud that takes in one bit of light, absorbs it. And that's why you can see that change in the full body. And you see it's like a couple of little black lines. That's the bit that's been absorbed in the cloud. And then you look at the cloud from the other angle, just the cloud, and you see it emitting light in all directions, not just the direction, because that bit of light's gone in, and at some point, the atom will emit a new bit of light in a completely random direction based on the time that the energy was reached for emission, that piece of light will have none of the information that the previous bit of light had. It's a completely new bit of light derived from. Is it the same? All those little bits of energy that are in there. Is it different ones? I don't know. But to say that we've not destroyed the light, and that, to me.
No,
to me,
totally disagree with that.
Hello. Can I just hear Adam's last conclusory words? Go ahead, Adam. Last couple of words. Then I'm going to round out the live show.
So, to me, with that understanding, I can't see the conservation of light there in that mechanism.
With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you, first and foremost, to both Discord and G+ panels. But of course, a massive thank you to all of you for tuning in, smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, hitting the thanks button if you're not watching this live, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on a premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!